It's Multiplier. Oh, I should have started the way I should do. Hey guys, it's Multiplier, and we are dealing with multi-band compression. Multi-band multiplier, as you might say. So, multi-band compression is something people have been asking me to do a video on for a while, and it's also probably the second most misused tool in the universe. The most misused tool is EQ. But yeah, multi-band compression is a sort of thing you misuse after you misuse EQ. So you're developing as a producer, you get all right, and then you start misusing EQ, and then you start misusing compressors, and then you start misusing multi-band compressors. That's typically the order. And the reason why people do this is not their fault. It's that they've maybe seen an interview or read somewhere that some top producer uses multi-band compression to, I don't know, make shit fat or make my beats dope or something cool. Basically, it's nothing special. You don't even need to use it. I very, very rarely even use a multi-band compressor, at least in the general mix. I use it on the master a little bit, but you really don't need to use them. It's a lot more important just to really pick your sounds carefully, make your sounds carefully, and then you don't need to really use it. Because basically all a multi-band compressor is, it's a compressor that is kind of, you can split up into various EQ bands, and it's just a way of taking a sound and then kind of manipulating it. So taking it and kind of compressing some of the frequencies, kind of squeezing it and kind of manipulating it. Now, it sounds intuitive to me, and I hope it makes sense to you, that if you have a whole bunch of sounds that you want to fit together, it makes more sense to pick good sounds that fit together instead of taking sounds that kind of don't fit together or that don't sound good and then trying to manipulate them. It's like taking something and then trying to fuck with it. Why don't you just make it good in the first place? Seems to make sense to me. Anyway, let's get into an example and explain what it is. So, I'm not going to dig into details, and it's also not relevant what multi-band compressor you use. It's more just the general kind of concept about what you kind of might use it for and how it kind of works. So, let's give you an example, because examples are good, and otherwise you're just listening to me talk shit for a while. So, we got our song Happy Floaty Cloud Fun. It's something that's going to go on my new album when I actually finish it. And we've got this kind of section of it that we've bounced out to audio, and it needs a bit of work. So this is what it sounds like kind of before the multi-band compression. So that's the general vibe. Now, sounds kind of cool, right? And you're thinking, wow, he must now use multi-band compression to sound dope and fat and sick and shit. But no, what I'm actually going to use it for is basically there's some high frequencies going on that I don't want. And they're from about roughly 10k upwards. And what I'll do is I will use some sort of mouse effect like this to kind of show you on a spectrum analyzer the frequencies I mean. So as you're kind of hearing, look with your eyes and see what's going on from 10k upwards. So we're talking from this line here, 10k upwards. And hopefully you can see what's going on, and you should be able to see and hear the thing that I want to fix. See how there's all these kind of dissonant resulting frequencies happening from the synthesis, and they're kind of moving around as you move the notes around because of the way that dissonance and science and shit works. But what you want to do is tone these down because they're a little bit distracting. We don't want to just EQ them away because, well, I'll kind of show you. So see, if you look at the spectrum analyzer, you can kind of see what's going on. So we have all these kind of frequencies here, and then they kind of go over here, and then we have this kind of lump here, and this is kind of sticking out more than we need to. This is the section that's kind of resulting from these kind of weird high frequencies that we don't really want. So what we want to do, yes, we could just kind of EQ them away, but it's kind of a blunt instrument because these kind of peaks are only happening occasionally. They're only happening when the notes are kind of triggering. So if we just EQ'd it, then we would just end up by just dulling the whole thing. Whereas if we use some multi-band compression, we can just tame some of the peaks of it a bit and just kind of bring it in a little bit, because we don't want to completely get rid of it. We just want to tone it back a bit to kind of fix a little bit of a fuck up. Ideally, we would have fixed this when we were making the preset, but I was using a complicated synth that I don't know if I can clue how it works. So we're fixing it, which isn't the ideal solution, but you know what? Sometimes we need to fix shit. That's part of life. Get used to it. So, yeah, I'll try to kind of show you what I did. So pretty much straight away, we've done the most important step in multi-band compression. We've decided what we want to achieve. I think that's probably going to be the key step for most of you. If you're just making bass sounds, because you're making bass sounds, and you're like, oh, I should probably multiband this shit. So you throw on a multiband, start twisting knobs because you think you should do it. It's the wrong way around to do it. Take a sound, analyze it, listen to it. Do you need to fuck around with it? Do you need to change it? And then really be specific what you want to achieve. Don't drag out that multiband compressor until you know exactly what you want to do. That's going to be my advice. So we know what we want to do. We want to tame back those frequencies above, say, 10k-ish. So we're gonna use isotope alloy for this, just because I like isotope alloy and I know how it works. The Ableton multiband will work just fine, as will pretty much any multiband, because it works fine, does the job. So we'll turn on isotope alloy, and I've actually set this up, so I'll show you what I did. So it's all in the dynamics module. So what I did is I made it into multiband mode by clicking, have a guess what? The multiband button. That turns it from multiband to non-multiband, as you might have guessed. And then I dragged this little slider dude around like that until I got it where I wanted. Now I could have used my ears, but because I looked at Spectrum Analyzer and used my ears before as well, I kind of knew roughly where I wanted it. So I used my eyes to know roughly where I needed to put it, in this case around 8.86k to be precise. And then just kind of fine-tuned it a little bit. And then what you basically got, because I haven't really explained how a compressor works, I kind of assumed you already knew, but I'm going to explain it anyway. A compressor is, so you have your signal coming in, and then as it hits a threshold, if it goes above the threshold, then if it's, say, the signal is 1 dB above the threshold, if the ratio is, I don't know, 2 to 1, then it will pull it down by like twice as much. So if it's a, I don't know, 2 dB above the threshold and the ratio is 2 to 1, it will pull it down 1 dB or something like that. It's the basic idea. So the bigger the ratio, the more it kind of squishes it above the threshold. But it's only once it hits the threshold that it kind of squishes it down. So it's literally compressing it. So you literally got to imagine, yes, some of the compressors do some other fancy shit, but it's basically just having effectively a hand on the volume knob. That's all a compressor is. It's just controlling the volume, except just doing it in a kind of a semi-automated way. And then you've also got stuff like the attack time and the release time, which is the speed at which this compression happens. You just kind of fine-tune them based on your ears and kind of common sense and imagining what's going on. But if in doubt, leave it at the the default, and then kind of go from there. So we have the threshold, which would be this dude here. I basically just dialed in the threshold till it kind of refined it a bit, and then dialed in the ratio till I fuck it, I'll give you a before and after. I'm doing too much talking here. Let's give you some examples. So, before and after. And off. And on. You see how it's, hopefully you can kind of hear the difference. If not, what I'll do is I'll turn it off and on, and if you keep your eye over on the right hand side by where in the Spectrum Analyzer it has this kind of like 10k and upwards bit, and then as I'm turning it off and on, see how it's kind of pulling that bump down till it's kind of flat. It's pretty cool. And on. And off. And on. Oh fuck! Stop. Right, cool. You see what I mean? It just kind of tames it, pulls it back a little bit, and but what it doesn't do is just completely wipe out those high frequencies, which is what you would do if you just did an EQ on it. Kind of makes sense. I could show you the settings, but you fucking work them out. It's more important you get the basic principle that you really want to be specific in what you use a multiband compressor for, and there's no such thing as default settings. What I could do is I could tell you that, I don't know, my compressor ratio is at 6.7 to 1, but that would mean shit all to you, because each sound is different, and it's all down to your source material to determine what settings you need. Yes, there are settings that tend to work in certain situations more if your source material is similar. So, for example, vocals, there are certain presets or certain like bands of attack times and shit that might make sense for vocals, because most vocals happen in a dynamically similar-ish sort of way. Similarly, if you're dealing with actual recordings of like guitars or drums, yes, there are certain settings that I could kind of say, yes, you approximately want to have this sort of ratio or this sort of release time or whatever. But when it comes to synthetic sounds, which most of you watching are doing synthetic electronic dance music, there's no such thing as a standard attack time or release time or anything like that. It's just a case of deciding what you want to fix and then thinking it through. You know what? Radical thought, right? Use your brains, think it through. How am I going to fix this, or how am I going to manipulate this to make this better? And then just think about the signal, and then think about what you need to do to that signal to get it doing what you want. Kind of do your best to set it all up. Start playing the sound and then tweak those settings, and just keep tweaking it using kind of your brain and imagining what's going on to kind of figure out what's going on. You know, that sounds like I'm just telling you to use your brain, but you know what? You need to use your brain. That's essential when it comes to life, so you do that. Right, the multi-band multiplier. Oh, shit, shouldn't have done that. I'm breaking the illusion of tutorials. Right, how long has this tutorial been? It has been 10 minutes, 11 minutes, right. Hope you learned a lot about multi-band compression, because I sure have. Enjoy, and remember, if in doubt, don't. Or do, but don't. That's my advice to you, the internet. Goodbye.